Hello, Mystics. It's me, Ashley. We recorded with Beck Lawrence a few weeks ago, and a lot has changed since then. I wanted to give you a quick update on Beck's story before we dive into our episode. Beck Lawrence has taken legal action against the Hanover Police Department by filing a lawsuit with the Pennsylvania State Attorney General's office. They argue that the law from 1861, which prohibits fortune telling, is unconstitutional and infringes upon their rights to practice their beliefs. I reached out to Beck to hear more about this decision.
Hey, hon. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. It has been really crazy. But basically, right now, we are in the beginning steps of filing a lawsuit because that is basically the only way to protect me, from getting arrested moving forward is to get this law stricken or struck from the books. So our next steps moving forward are just filing all the proper procedures, notifying the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, and requesting that this law be reviewed and changed because it violates my First and 14th Amendment rights. It was actually illegal to do this federally and illegal to put that law in place back when it was first enacted back in 1861. It was technically illegal, but no one thought to challenge it. So yeah, I think it's time now.
Thank you, Beck, for sharing that with our audience. To support Beck Lawrence and other American pagans, there's a petition on change.org. You can find the link in our show notes. And now, on to the show. When I was reading one of the articles, I think it was in the New York Times, it said that you actually had a lot of Christians come and support you in this store. What?
Yeah. So I have had 2 pastors now specifically come in and say I get emotional thinking about this because it was just so beautiful, but just saying hey, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. And the people who are doing this do not walk with the light of God.
Hello, Mystics, and welcome to the Occult Unveiled. I'm your host, Ashley Ryan. This week, we're bringing you something a little different. I have with me today Beck Lawrence, owner of the Serpent's Key Shop and Sanctuary in Pennsylvania, who recently was in national news for being a target of a modern witch hunt. Beck, welcome to the show. And I first want to say, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I cannot imagine the stress you've been under.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having me first and foremost. Yeah, it's been kind of a weird couple of months, to be really real with you guys. But I have to say overall, it has been a very positive experience in terms of how amazing all of the witches in my area are. So shout outs to them, first and foremost, because it could have been so much worse. And I'm glad it wasn't or isn't, because everything's still kind of unfolding even as we're speaking right now. So
yeah. So let's back up. What happened?
All right, so we're going to go back about 6 weeks, or really 2 months at this point, to October 3rd, which I remember very well because it was indeed Mean Girls Day, and I was very excited about that. So basically, I live and work in Hanover, Pennsylvania, which is a little tiny town in PA. It's famous for pretzels and various other snacks and chips and stuff. That's our claim to fame. But basically, there's a really great nonprofit downtown that helps local businesses really establish themselves. And one of the things that they offer is the Meet the Merchant articles. So I sat down with a member of the organization. They wrote up a really beautiful article about my shop, which I thought was really important because I get that I'm a little bit off-putting. I have tattoos. I say the F word. I wear all black. I'm not really going to be the number 1 pick for seminary school or however they draft all that. I don't know. But we had a really great article. It went out the morning of October 3rd. And I had shared it on Facebook. I didn't really think it was going to gain any traction. I thought, all my friends will share it. My family will read it. This is super cute. Maybe 1 or 2 other people oh, hey, I read your article. I would love to come say hi. Whatever. It was just something that I did not expect to blow up. But I had put that out of my mind. I went to therapy that day. Should have just turned right back around because when I opened my phone, I literally saw like in my email notifications an email from the nonprofit. And at first I was like, oh, they're just probably confirming that the article went out and just saying like, whatever. But the email, which I have posted on my TikTok in case anyone wants to read it, like you can read the whole thing. But essentially it was like, hey, just so you know, the head or the chief of police, Chad Martin, read our article, like, and is going to stop by your place of business the next time that you're open to inform you that tarot reading is illegal under Pennsylvania law. And I was like, this can't be
Oh my
real.
God.
Like, you know, and
No. Who would
here's
say
the thing.
that?
A lot of people were like, oh, well, you were kind of dumb to open up your shop in Pennsylvania if you didn't know the law. I do know the law. I did a lot of research on this before I opened my establishment. I'm a Virgo. I don't like, you know.
Yeah.
So I had seen that this law was in place. It has been prosecuted in the last couple years, but in tandem with major
Wait,
cases of
what?
fraud, like people being like, hey, if you give me $10,000, I will tell you where your dead daughter's body is. Or like, hey, if you don't give
Okay.
me X amount of money, I'm not going to lift the curse that I put on you. Like, you know, things that were legitimately
Mm.
predatory, but things that like, that's not what we do there. You know, I'm not soliciting people and
No.
I don't care enough. Like, no offense. Like, you know, like I got my own stuff going.
No one's gonna do that work. Like it's a lot. And okay, so the law itself, it is made in 1861. Is that right?
That's correct. That is the year the Civil War started too. Just
Oh,
going out there. Isn't that fun?
yeah.
Yeah.
So the law is specifically against tarot reading, fortune telling. What is the law?
So the law prohibits fortune telling for gain. So
Okay.
basically, you know, if I were to say, oh, I can read your future, and I said, you know, X, Y, and Z, now give me money. Back in the day,
Right.
when people were legitimately being fraudulent and there was a different connotation behind tarot, I also believe that the
Mm-hmm.
law has roots in like racism against like Romani practices. Like I think
Sure.
is a really big argument for that as well.
Romani. The Romani are an Indo-Aryan ethnic group traditionally living a nomadic lifestyle.
However, it really was put in place to like oppress any sort of alternative, in my personal opinion, alternative spiritual practice because Pennsylvania has
Mm-hmm.
always been really open to that. That's what it was founded on. Like William Penn,
Yeah.
all about religious freedom. Like that's kind of the point. So it's just ironic to me that this
Mm-hmm.
person, this head of the police department, the chief of police, Chad Martin, like you can look it up, his picture's right on the website. He had to dig through the Pennsylvania gaming laws because tarot is considered like games, like
Sure. I've seen
no.
that on like websites, right? Like when they sell tarot, it's under card games and stuff.
Right,
Okay.
right. So it's like right under like gambling and horse racing. Like it's
Huh.
crazy. So you really, really, he had to dig for this. You know, it's not something that has ever been prosecuted on its own. It's always been in tandem with lots of like major fraud cases, and it's to like add on
Mm-hmm.
a penalty, like of another year or an extra fine. It's not,
Sure. I understand.
you know. So basically, I got this email and I was like, well, this isn't good. um, and I talked with a friend who like set me up with his lawyer and stuff, and they were like, oh, this is
Okay,
fine.
good.
They can't do anything. Like, relax. Now, I do have signage around my establishment, and just to cover my ass a little bit, I've
Mm-hmm.
always had signage that is like, hey, you know, this is for entertainment purposes only, because that is what, based on my research before I even opened my company, was how a lot of local witches were kind of getting around this rule as well, including other establishments in the area. Like, I'm not, you know, just randomly pulling this out of my hat. Like, actually, it's a technicality. Like, This is a no.
Yeah, we do that too in
Right.
Los Angeles. We have that. We also have like it's for entertainment purposes only. There's no guarantee that the magic will work. We supply the tools, you bring the magic, and I have it all over my Etsy.
Yep.
So, okay, so you did your research, you did your due diligence,
Yeah.
and he still came.
Oh, yeah. Two men actually came. So on
What?
his report, yes. So he and another officer who I don't know his name or anything like that. They came in their little like Hanover Borough police uniforms with like their little like patches and stuff. And they entered my establishment. I actually didn't realize it was them at first. So like in the
Oh.
security footage, I'm like, hi.
Oh God.
So they basically like backed me into a corner, like against this like divider thing. And they were like, hi, like, my name's Chad Martin, and I'm just here to have a conversation with you. Or do you consent to that? And I asked him, I consent to it if you let me record the conversation on my phone or something
Good for you.
to the effect. And he declined consent. Now, that's illegal, I found out later from a lawyer, but in Pennsylvania, you do have to have consent from both parties in order to record a conversation. So unfortunately, like I didn't get everything recorded. And I just didn't want to get like caught for like wiretapping
Yeah, of
or
course.
anything, I'm like not trying to go to jail for some stupid cause.
Yeah, of course.
So after I said that, he declined. I simply was like, all right, then I'm not comfortable talking to you without my legal representation present.
Good for you.
And that was all it was. And this man like sighed and was like, I'm just trying to have an adult conversation with you. And the way I had to like not say anything, the way I had to like keep my composure with that, I was like, okay, you can speak your piece. I'll listen to you, but
I'm not going to respond.
yeah, like, and so he went on to say, I'm not here to charge you today or arrest you today. But I'm here to inform you just so you know that this is a law that's on the books. And if I get reports about your business again, I will be obligated to come and investigate to make sure everything is up to par. And I was like, okay, well, as you can see here, I have 3 signs because again, I'm a Virgo. I do things in triplicate. Like what? I pointed to, I was like, well, I have one there, and here. I opened up like my book of listings that you have to like, it's like the first page in there. You have to look at it in order to schedule with me.
Right.
He was like, oh, well, those little pieces of paper will never hold up in court. And I just said, okay, thank you, officer. Have a nice day. And they left. So that was the experience. That I feel like it seemed way more dramatic, like online and stuff.
Don't diminish your experience at all because that is genuinely very threatening. What would you have liked to say to them in that moment?
Get out.
That's fair.
Like, I didn't really have a lot to say. My background, I grew up in Virginia. So I'm kind of used to like the religious side of things. And also when I was 13, my family literally thought I was possessed by Satan himself and tried to perform an exorcism on me. So like, this ain't my first rodeo, like I feel like
I get you.
give off that vibe where people are like, she's the devil or whatever. And I'm like, I'm just a little guy. Like, I'm just here. I just really like the moon and love tea. So basically, and I need to back up because they didn't come the next business day. They actually waited. So I gave them a full like 24 hours before I posted anything online about the situation because I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to like, I was angry at first when I got the email and I was like, what the hell is this? And I did angrily post about it. I'll admit that. But they were supposed to come on like Wednesday. They didn't show up until Thursday. So I waited until Wednesday evening to post anything on my local pages or on my Instagram or anything like that to kind of like reveal what was actually happening. And that's when it blew up. So it was already kind of going viral by the time they came in. and I was kind of able to give like a play by play, which was like kind of interesting. But yeah, they like kind of made me, I guess they wanted me to sweat or something, but like goths don't,
I'm sure.
we simmer, like, don't they know? Like, so yeah, it was just very dramatic for no reason.
But there wasn't a complaint. There
No,
was no
there was
complaint.
no complaint. It was him reading, or as far as I know, him
Okay.
reading this article and being like, no, 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 like that's not right, you know, versus I don't know. I guess there's just no crime in Hanover anymore. I'm the last.
I guess not. I guess that's just the biggest issue in the area.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's not like we have a big drug crisis in the anyways, it's fine. You know, like
So you made the TikTok, because I saw your TikTok, the OG one, where you were very frantically like preparing for the
yeah.
police.
Mm-hmm.
And how did it garner national news? You were in the New York Times.
I still can't like fathom that. Like it's so funny because I thought it was a joke when they called me. I was like at the shop and I looked
Mhm.
at my assistant and I was like, I think I need to take this phone call. Like,
Yeah.
they just left me a voicemail saying, this is the New York Times. I think I need to take this. And she was like, go, go. You know, it was so sweet. She was like, I'll take care of everything. You just go talk to them, honey. So yeah, it still hasn't really sunk in. Like, cause I still I'm just a little guy. Like I'm in the middle of rural Pennsylvania. Like I didn't think that
Mhm.
you know, I mean, Silver Ravenwolf.
Silver Ravenwolf, a well-known author who writes about modern witchcraft and paganism.
And I know that's such a weird thing to be like excited about, but like when I was 13 and like initiating into Wicca, I had Solitary Witch like glued to my hands, you know?
I
And to know
understand.
that
Yeah.
she has like heard about this story, like just like blows me away. Like I know that's so
Yeah.
weird, but
It's not weird.
like to have that was like a very that's kind of like when I realized it was real. I was like, oh no, this isn't just like hee hee ha ha, like TikTok, like LOL, you know.
Yeah, it blew up to like real news.
Yeah, like this is like big to our community as well, which is like something that
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I just like the moon. Like I'm out here, you know, like and shit. Like I'm not trying to like I don't know, like be the face of any movement. I'm just trying to run my shop, you know. And so to be able to be given the opportunity to be like, no, this is what witchcraft actually is, and this is what we actually do, is a really beautiful gift. I feel like I've been given, you know, by the universe. So I'm really grateful for that as well.
Yeah, I agree, Beck. I think sometimes spirit chooses us for missions, for messages that we may not have realized that we signed up for initially. And that's something that you're here showing that there is like, gosh, I really don't like the word witch hunt. I think it gets
No,
overhyped and overused,
yeah,
but it really truly is. And that's so scary.
yeah, yeah. It is definitely like I feel, and this is, I don't ever want to come off like grandiose. Like I never want to be like,
I
I was
understand.
picked for this divine mission. It just, shit happened.
It
And
just
I
happened.
just happened to
Yeah.
be the person who it happened to. But I do feel like I've been talking to my therapist about this, who is also a witch. I'm like, I feel like I've done this before. And to me, that is like the collective feeling of generations of AFAB people or just others, you know, like people being othered by the
Of course.
majority, you know, and being set aside and persecuted. And you know, again, I even feel weird saying like, oh, I was persecuted. Cause like, honestly, two guys just came to my shop and were kind of mean to me, like, you know, but at the same time, it was motivated. Like it is very obvious to me. And
Well, there's a lot under here.
yeah.
There's layers to this,
Mhm.
right? Like let's break this down. Um, what to you, if you were going to define tarot?
So the way that I view tarot is my job is to interpret the messages on the card in a
Mhm.
way that makes sense and is valuable to the person in front of me, if that makes sense. So I'm
It does.
basically stringing together a sentence, and whether it is my gift, whether you believe that I believe anyone can read tarot, I just believe I am
Mhm.
particularly good at it. Like, I'm not good at
Sure.
runes, I'm not good at pendulum, but like if I look at a tarot spread or a deck of cards, I just get it. It's like understanding a language or writing with a certain hand. So for me, it's a way to express or to connect spiritually or to the universe. It doesn't have to be spiritual, it can be secular. And understanding that there are patterns in our life and there are archetypes that we can learn
Mm-hmm.
from and apply to our life in order to get through trials and tribulations. It can also be really fun. So it's kind of like how
Totally.
serious you want to take it, but it is not evil. It is not
Nope.
something that is summoning anything necessarily, like
Mm-mm.
unless that's your goal, but like there's a lot more involved to that, let me tell you.
Yeah, than just paper cards.
Yeah, like it's literally, it's like I could read cards with a deck of bicycle cards, you know? Like
Yeah,
it's not the, but I think that people don't know that. People see things in
I think you're
Hollywood
right.
where it's like, oh, if I pull the death card, that means you're gonna die. And it's like, well, not really. Like, you
Mm.
know?
And so this is different than fortune telling.
Right,
You're not sitting there saying, "Ooh, I see in 3
right,
days you will have a very
right,
misfortune, like a big miss." Yeah. And that's where people get confused
right.
because the way that I understand tarot and I teach tarot is
Mhm,
that we're all on a timeline. And each choice we make moves us forward on this timeline.
mhm.
And we can only see so far in advance in the future. So a fortune is very different, I think,
Right,
than seeing 6 months in advance
right.
of your life.
I feel
And
fortune
go ahead.
telling is like, hey, you have to, if you don't do this, like you're gonna die in 6 months. Or like
Yeah,
I see death in your, like I don't know why it always comes down to like some sort of horrible sickness or like kind of
because for fraud,
yeah,
right? Because
right.
you're trying to manipulate someone.
Right, right. And I don't like I don't care enough to manipulate people. Like I know that sounds really weird, but like
No, I feel the same way. People are like, "You've put a hex on me." I'm like, "Girl, when did I have the time to do that?"
yeah, like I'm sorry. Like I'm like baking bread right now. Like I don't have time. I don't have the energy either to do it. So for me, tarot is a way, it's a tool. It's not,
Mhm.
it's a tool. It's something that anyone can learn, anyone can use, and can be applicable in any realm of life, whether it's finances, love, career, whatever, like spirituality. It just is a tool. It's a thing.
And more importantly, that tool, especially if you look at the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, that tool has a lot of Christian symbolism in it. So, for all of our listeners, go find the Wheel of Fortune card,
Yeah.
and you'll see the Hebrew letters Yod He Vav He. Like, come on, this is not satanic or evil at all.
Well, I have one of my favorite things to collect are like historical reproductions or reproductions of historical decks. And
Mm.
in a lot of the ones from like the 1500s, they have the Pope and the Popess. They don't have the Hierophant and the High Priestess. It's like they have all of this very
Oh,
Christian imagery as well, or like judgment. I always see that kind of as like the rapture almost, you know? So it's like
totally. Mhm.
there's so much that is based in Christianity that I don't think people know, but it's because it's been demonized. So I'm hoping that like this is also opening up an avenue for people who maybe haven't connected with that sense of spirituality for them to be like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was at all. And maybe this is something that I'm interested in. And then that's where I can come in and be like, hi, okay, yes, it isn't that scary. Well, welcome. you know?
Yeah, and that's one of the major missions that I have with the Occult Unveiled is to unveil and pull the wool out of people's eyes and say, this is reality. It is not this Hollywood-esque, spooky, scary that you think it is. So when I was reading one of the articles, I think it was in the New York Times, it said that you actually had a lot of Christians come and support you in the store.
Yeah.
What?
So I have had
Oh my God, that's
two
amazing.
pastors now specifically come in and say like, and like I get emotional thinking about this because it was just so beautiful, but like just saying like, hey, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, and the people who are doing this do
Wow.
not walk with the light of God. And let me just say, like, I have nothing against anybody from any religion. It's more so like, if you're going to be nice to me, I will be nice to you, and vice versa, you know?
Mhm.
Like, I tend to match energy. um,
I understand.
so for pastors from local congregations to feel brave enough, like, I have to commend them for that. Because to walk into a place where you don't know, I could be like, "Get out," you know? I mean, I would never do that, obviously, but that takes a lot of courage and bravery. And I think that
It does.
Jesus would
Mm.
truly be appreciative of their actions. And that to me truly shows faith. And no matter what faith you adhere to, I think it's important that you're resolute in it, you know, and for them to be like, "Hey, we may be different, but I will love you as my neighbor." Oh,
That is so
oh my gosh.
beautiful. I mean, unexpected allies like that, and, like, I this is so heartwarming. I have, like, goosebumps right now because
Yeah, it's like, it's crazy. Like, I there's so much that has happened, I think, in the past couple years that could have made me jaded towards like, humans
Mhm.
in general. Just be like, "Oh, all people are terrible, and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be angry, and fuck every Christian." No, absolutely not. Like, yeah, bad things have happened to me at the hands of this religion, but that is not the majority, And I think
Yeah.
I've seen so much courage and love from people from so many different walks of life, whether they're just like, "No, I support the First Amendment. I don't give a shit what you're doing in your store. Like, I just think you should be able to do it." And I'm like, "Thank you." It's great.
And I think that's where this really boils down to, is that this is a violation of the First
Hmm.
Amendment. That's what this country is founded on, is freedom of religion.
Except when it's not theirs. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
Ugh.
I You're right, and that's what it comes down to. Not only religion, but the freedom of speech, because even if I'm
Mhm.
using tarot in a very secular way, if I'm just like, "I wanna know what my day's like," whatever, it's still my right to be able to say what I see. No one can say, "Oh, you're not allowed to
Absolutely.
to tell people that." Like, that's literally illegal. You know?
What? 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 Yeah, I think it's just so this story, like, I don't know if you realize that this happened during a Mercury retrograde. Do you know that?
I did.
Okay. Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is an astronomical and astrological phenomenon when Mercury appears to move backwards in its orbit. Many believe this event can negatively influence communication, technology, and decision making.
There was so much going on as well. So I celebrated and this is all kind of relevant. I celebrated my 26th birthday in September. Um, that birthday,
Mhm.
I celebrated my 13th anniversary of initiating myself into Wicca. At the time, I no longer practice
Mhm.
that, but I was 13. I don't know. I was a kid. So 13-year
Yeah, yeah.
anniversary, 13 being a magical number. And this happened 13 days later. So my birthday is the 20th. The
That's
article went
crazy.
out on the 3rd. And there was just
Mhm.
like a lot of really weird synchronicities that were lining up for me where I was like, okay, like, this needs to happen now. And hopefully it gets the conversation started so it doesn't happen to anybody else. Cause that's ultimately my goal, you know?
Yeah. I'm so blessed to live in Los Angeles where it is incredibly accepted. They're like, "Oh, you're a witch? Oh, you're a Satanist? Okay, cool, whatever." But to be we're living in such intolerant times right now, and this story is really bringing to the forefront some problems that need to be addressed in a moment of authenticity and transparency. And I'm so glad that, like, you've got such a great humor about this.
That's the only thing we can do is show how it's almost like turning the mirror back on them and saying, like, what are you doing? Like, don't you see how silly you're being? We could just work together. It doesn't have to be this
Yeah.
way. So it's like, do you see your actions? Like, that is this what the community we want to build? Is one founded on hate of our neighbors who might be a little bit different than us but are still tax-paying citizens, you know? So
Yeah. Speaking of that, what word did you get any response from the police for this going into national news?
So I think they posted something on their Facebook page around when all of this was kind of really popping off, because there were some people who were definitely trolling the comments, which I have to say kind of made my night. Like my husband and I were sitting there. They're like, "Oh my God, they just called the police, like the chief of police, part of the Scooby-Doo gang for hunting down witches."
Pythian, stop. We can't license that.
I was like, "Oh my God, like you guys are so ridiculous." But basically, following this, I got in touch with a civil rights lawyer who was like, "No, this
Ah,
is like, you should be angry about this. Like, this is actually a big deal." And I'm like, "Oh, it's okay." And she's like,
no.
"No, no, no, babe. Like, this is not cool. Like, you need to be upset." And I was like, "Okay." She wrote a really beautiful, like, cease and desist letter essentially to the police department. And
Okay.
we sent that to them on the 31st. So on Samhain, on Halloween, which was her idea. And I
Very
love
smart. Yeah.
um, so we sent that to them and gave them the deadline of 15 days, which I think fair enough, to respond and say, "Hey, we realized we messed up. We're not, we're not
Sorry.
do this," because ultimately I just want to know that I'm not going to get dragged out of my shop at any point, because it's still
Yeah.
like right now still a reality. Um, we gave them 2 weeks. They didn't respond until 3 o'clock on the 15th, or yeah, 3 o'clock on the 15th is when I heard from my lawyer. So
Okay.
right on the deadline, 2 hours away. I was like, okay.
All right.
And they asked for an extension to make their decision, because they have to check with their insurance company to see if they will be covered, or if they'll be liable. And now, I it's kind of crazy. So we're giving them until the first, so a couple days from now. I think like 3 days from now.
Okay.
So I've been just like, kind of, I feel bad I don't have too many updates, but there's, with bureaucracy, it just takes forever, and there's so much red tape and paperwork.
Of course, there's always legal stuff always moves so slowly. So let me just make sure I understand. Let's clarify for our listeners. So on Samhain, Halloween, you sent a letter that said what?
Essentially, here are all of the reasons why you cannot prosecute me for
Hmm.
this. Like,
Okay.
one, it's a violation of the First Amendment. Please respond back to us by the 15th, stating that you will not continue to prosecute me, or you do not intend to prosecute this law, because you know that it's not.
This
This
is
is
silly
this.
banana pants. This is silly.
Yeah, yeah, like it literally says something about, like, oh my gosh, she worded it so brilliantly. And if you guys want to read it, it is also on my TikTok. Like, I posted a
Great.
little video, um, but it says something about like knowingly realizing it's a ridiculous, outdated law. So we sent that to the police department, and then the police department got back to us on like 2 weeks later on the 15th, on the day of the deadline that we gave them, 2 hours before 5 p.m., saying that they needed an extension to make the decision as to whether or not they
Yeah,
could,
to check with their insurance. Wow.
yeah, which, like, okay, like, fair enough, like, whatever, again, like, whatever, like,
Yeah. Okay, fine.
ultimately, I just don't want to be arrested, you know? Um,
I mean, rightfully so. No one wants to be arrested.
yeah, right? And so to kind of help with a lot of this, I started like a change.org petition, because I do plan on continuing to work to get this law overturned in Pennsylvania. Um,
Mm.
I got a lot of time on my hands and insomnia, so they picked the wrong one, is just what I'm saying. So we have on there like a letter that people can copy and paste and send to their representatives, like if they are in Pennsylvania. And this is
Mhm.
really important because it's an election year next year. So there's going to be a lot of political stuff already, like in the zeitgeist, like in the news. So now is the time. Hey, if you want to get reelected, why don't we get this law thrown out, because we know it's stupid, or at least amended to make sure that people like us can't be religiously prosecuted or persecuted
Absolutely.
under, like, honestly, like a bullshit law. Like, it's
Yeah.
BS.
It's archaic. It's outdated.
Silly.
Yeah. No, you're allowed to swear on the show. It's okay. So for us who don't live in Pennsylvania, can we sign that change.org petition?
Absolutely, you can, because the more pressure, or the not pressure, I don't want to say it like in a negative way, but the more attention that this gets, the more people are going to take it seriously, and the
Mhm.
more that people in power are going to be like, oh wait, this isn't just some girl on the internet,
Yeah,
like
this is a real problem.
like, no, this is like I'm a business owner. I'm
Yes, you
trying to
are.
live the American dream, and this is crazy that it's standing in my way. So maybe, just maybe, we can tweak the law a little bit, to make sure
Yeah.
this doesn't happen.
Yeah, and for all of our listeners, we're going to link that petition down in the show notes so you can sign and help Beck and hopefully overturn this old, archaic, outdated law.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm it's kind of like weird that this has all kind of happened at the end of the year, because I feel like I'm running around like a crazy person trying to get everything, organized, but definitely like in the new year, this is probably going to be like what a lot of my content is about, is just like, hey, we have to stand up for ourselves, and it is evident to me that the community is there. Oh my God. Every mom in like Hanover was like, you're my baby now. You're my weird little gremlin child. And
Aww.
I'm like, thank you. It was very sweet. It was very sweet. So I'm very grateful for that. Oh, for sure.
And how has this affected your business? Has it boosted sales? What's going on?
So, October, like I kept having to apologize to people because we were sold out of everything. Like
Wow.
we did more business in October than we did for the entirety of 2023.
Holy
Just to put
moly.
that into perspective for you, which I like, and it's still happening. Like business is still really crazy. Like, not necessarily as much as that. Like, honestly, kind of thankfully, because it was a lot. Like my door didn't close basically from
Wow.
10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I'm just like very grateful for that. Like it's very like I don't even have words to,
The outpouring of support is just
yeah,
incredible.
like what? And I think that it has if not contributed and built the community, at least given people the chance to explore what we do in a way that
Mhm.
is safe, in a way that is non-judgmental, and in a way that is maybe approachable to them.
Sure.
And can show people like, hey, like this isn't, I'm not opening portals to nether realms or anything. Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh. We,
Ooh.
it's always so funny. They're like, "Oh, are you going to steal my children?" And I'm like, "I don't. No, I don't want them. You can keep them. It's fine.
Mhm.
Like, I don't have a gingerbread house. Like, it's fine. you know."
You know, Beck, I'd really like to do something for you today. So
Sure.
I've never done this on the show. I have an oracle deck from my goddess Isis. That's her Greek name, or Aset in Egyptian, and I'd like to see what advice she has for you moving forward. Would you be okay with that?
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Oh my gosh. And I love that you use the Kemetic name as well. That's beautiful.
Yes,
I love
I like to connect to her in the most authentic and pure way possible. So let me pray over these cards so I can bring her forth. The miracle of Isis. And I truly do believe that this is a miracle what you're going through, even though it is painful and difficult. This is a miraculous healing. In this card, we see Isis or Aset with her husband, who is Osiris in the Greek. And this is a beautiful unity of both masculine and feminine energy. And in a non gendered way, that means projective and receptive energy. That you are putting out so much into the world right now and you will receive dividends. I truly believe that you are being guided by whomever, whatever goddess that you revere is here to help you, and know that you are creating massive change within this world. And that, again, this is a small miracle, no matter how painful it is.
100%. And I think that the deepest, most potent magic is done in places of pain, you know?
Absolutely.
And I hope that this can help kind of heal the collective in a way. Like, again, I don't want to sound grandiose, but if you have ever been afraid to claim that title of witch, of priest, practitioner, whatever that is for you, do it.
Do
Now's
it.
the time. You know,
Yeah.
what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can't arrest you. They can't,
No, they can't.
obviously, so do it. You know, it's time. It is time for that goddess energy to spring forth, you know?
I agree. I agree 100%. It's time for healing. And unfortunately, in order to be healed, you have to heal, which is painful and ugly. You got to push out that infection. But let's do it together. If you've got Christians on your side and you've got a community of people who are here to support you, this is a moment of huge transformation. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me and just giving me the platform to continue to share this. Like,
Absolutely.
I honestly thought that this was going to be like one of those little blips, you know, that was like, oh yeah, the 24-hour news cycle will take care of this. But 2 months later, almost, you know, it's been a blessing. Like, you know, it's been a miracle. So thank you
Oh,
for sharing in that and for sharing in this space. I appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you, Beck. And until next time, mystics, stay magical. The Occult Unveiled is produced by F Street Productions and M is for Magic. Our executive producers are Ashley Ryan, Michael A. Simon, and Scott Kushner. Our show is produced by Deborah Simon. Our audio producer is Bill Schultz. Our talent booker is Perry Turcott. Laura Kaufman is our coordinator. Thank you for listening, and for more information on any of the topics you heard today, plus really cool links and ways to learn about Ashley, Pythian, and all of our guests, go to theoccultunveiled.com website. The Occult Unveiled, copyright 2023.